Well, good morning, everybody. Jane Monreal here with you on a Friday morning, 9 a.m., and we are weather alert this weekend. So here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, know that like last weekend, as we were with you every step of the way, this weekend we will be covering you as well. Saturday from 10 until 6, we will be streaming here live on WCNC Plus, bringing you the significant impacts across our area as this snowstorm comes in. So with that, let's get to our majestic storm, who is in the Live Impact studio right now. She is very busy.
She's a busy bee.
I mean, she's always busy, but today,
she's particularly busy.
Traffic,
Yes.
and now weather. Hopefully traffic wasn't too bad this morning. It's been a dream of a commute, really, every morning because of all the delays, right?
Yeah, but I suspect that over the next few days it is going to be very busy as well. We want to start talking about the weather forecast, because if you're just turning on the stream and you maybe haven't been paying attention to the weather forecast, well, you got a big surprise coming. We're looking at a big winter winter snowstorm that's heading our way. Plan for a snow day tomorrow. Over the next 3 days, this is kind of our broad picture perspective as to what you need to be ready for. Today, a high of 41 degrees, cloudy skies. I'm not really seeing any impacts for us throughout our daytime hours. Now, if you're in the mountains, you're going to start to tap into a little bit of moisture as we're heading into the afternoon. And by moisture, yes, I mean snow. This is our typical nor'easter setup. So what we like about this is that there's no confusion as to what kind of precipitation we're going to get. Are we getting sleet or ice? I mean, no, this is all going to be coming down as snow, and we need to be prepared for accumulating snow. This weekend's weather forecast brings in a lot of different elements. Snow being number one, wind being number two, and then bitter cold Arctic air behind it. Tomorrow's forecast, 26 degrees. That's our daytime high, so not even reaching freezing, and we'll have that snow falling for several hours. Sunday, I'm actually kind of looking forward to. Yes, it's going to be cold, especially once you add in the wind, but it's going to be sunny, gorgeous, with a blanket of snow all across the Carolinas. If you're maybe a photographer who likes to get outside and you like to take those gorgeous pictures, Sunday is going to be the day. Now, this is very interesting. Look at this. These are our storm alerts, our winter storm alerts, Saturday through Sunday. The National Weather Service will issue these, and every single county across both North and South Carolina currently going to be under that winter storm warning or a winter storm watch this weekend. So lots of people gearing up, getting ready for a major winter storm system. And when we're talking about snow, we're talking about accumulating snow, yes, in the mountains, yes, in the city, and even over in the beach areas. So a lot going on. And remember, it's not just the snow. It's also going to be the wind. We'll talk about that. But let's start talking about how much snow we're actually going to see. We started talking about this a lot yesterday, diving into the different places of how much snow you could see. Of course, Chris was really fine-tuning the forecast this morning. We've talked about it. We have agreement that we think there could even be a little more than what we were thinking yesterday. All areas shaded in that dark blue, that's basically the majority of our viewing area. Ready for this? 4 to 7 inches of snow. 4 being the bare minimum, 7 kind of being that top amount. Now, I think the biggest problem with this forecast is if we have anything that kind of throws those numbers off, it's going to be dry air. Remember, as that snow falls, sometimes it reaches this area of dry air and it kind of just eats up that moisture. However, this storm system will be ongoing for hours. So we're going to have basically all throughout the day on Saturday for that snow to fall and for it to accumulate. Now, if you're up in the mountains, Ashe, Watauga, Avery counties, if you live in the mountains, you probably like the snow. I know lots of those local ski resorts are excited to not have to make their own snow. They're going to have plenty of snow being made by Mother Nature. But areas like Boone and Blowing Rock, I mean, we're looking at anywhere from about 7 to 9 inches of snow for you guys, and that's what we're seeing right east of I-95 as well. That's likely where we're going to see the greatest totals. But the last time Charlotte even saw just 1 inch of snow, that was back in 2022. So this is a big, huge, dramatic change as to what we've seen over the last several years with not even seeing snow. Overall, you can see as we're looking at snow potential, this is all across the Carolinas where that snow is going to fall over the next several days. We have, of course, the higher totals just to the east of us, but I mean, we're really in a spot that if you don't think the snow's coming, well, you're going to be very surprised on Saturday. You're going to be waking up to snow falling as you're drinking your coffee, as those kids are waking up, maybe begging to put on their snow gear and head out to play in the snow. We're confident we're getting at least 1 to 2 inches of snow. 4 inches, 86%. I mean, that's pretty good. Again, some of those totals even higher than that. So what are the greatest impacts that we'll be focusing on this weekend? Of course, the accumulating snow. I mean, that's a big deal here in the Carolinas to see that much snow even in and around the Charlotte metro area. Traveling also going to be a concern. If you have someplace to be on Saturday, hopefully you already postponed those plans. If you're an essential worker and you have no other option, make sure you allow for plenty of time to get to where you need to be. And bottom line, as somebody who has drove in the snow a lot, just drive slow. We like driving in snow better than we do on ice because it It actually has a lot more traction, but you'd still have to drive slow. As far as power outages go, I don't think we'll have a huge amount of power outages compared to what we saw with the ice storm, because primarily this is going to be snow that's very light and fluffy. I think the bigger concern with those power outages could be the strong winds associated with this front or with this system that's going to be scooting up the East Coast. So let's get to the futurecast. I know lots of you like to kind of see what radar could possibly look like. Starting this afternoon, here's 2 o'clock. Again, not seeing any impacts in and around Charlotte. Little breezy at times, cloudy skies, and temperatures today. Remember, it stays cold. We're only rising into the low 40s. We should be in the low 50s for this time of the year. Heading into tonight, here's 8 o'clock. So if you're watching from the mountains, yes, you'll start to tap into some of that moisture. And then waking up tomorrow morning, I know we all wake up at different times. Here's 6 o'clock. I think at least we'll start to have some snow falling in Charlotte, some light snow at that point. And then as we progress throughout the day, there's 11 o'clock on Saturday. At this point, I'm noticing a couple of different things. We're basically seeing widespread snow across our viewing area by 11 o'clock on Saturday. Cold temperatures, gusty winds, but I'm also seeing shades of darker blues. With that, the darker the blue, the heavier the snow. So there will be bands of snow that sets up and we'll get heavier precipitation amounts. However, I'm not saying everyone is going to see really heavy snow throughout the day. It's going to be maybe light and flurries in one spot, moderates in other, and then actually really heavy snow in other spots. So that's kind of the tricky spot of this winter weather forecast, is we can't necessarily tell you where those heavier bands of snow will set up. Here's 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon. We are still going. I mean, we're going to be into the thick of things by that point. If you think we're done by dinner time on Saturday, you better think again. Ongoing snow that's going to linger for hours. I think that's a huge part of the forecast because, you know, some people are thinking, it's not going to happen because it hasn't happened for a while. But I think with this one, we have so many hours of the day where our models are agreeing that snow is going to fall. It's not just a couple of hours in the morning and then we're done. I'm talking about by the time you're waking up, to the time you're going to sleep, the snow is going to be falling. And then once we fast forward just a bit more heading into Sunday we don't have any more snow. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be very cold, and that's when our weather story transitions from the snow to that very, very cold air. Those winds are going to be a big part of the forecast. So as those kids are outside playing, maybe you don't have kids, you want to just walk your dog outside, let them run and play, or you don't even want to go out in it, you're going to notice that snow is going to be drifting and blowing all around because we will have strong northeasterly winds. Some of our winds, not out of the question to gust up to around 30 to 35 miles an hour. So yeah, that's going to reduce down visibility, not making for great travel, especially if you have to be out and about. But also, the winds make it feel significantly colder. And remember, our high temperature on Saturday doesn't even reach freezing. So how cold is it actually going to feel? Let's talk about our wind chills. Remember, that's the combination of our air temperature with the wind. You step outside, that's going to be the temperature that it actually feels like on your skin. 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon, snow's coming down all across the area. We'll have heavy bands of snow probably around that point as well. Feeling like we're at 5 degrees in Charlotte. Remember, air temperature around 26, but feeling like 5. In the mountains, sub-zero feel-like temperatures. And honestly, it gets way worse as we're heading through Sunday. Sunday's going to feel like we're in the single digits at times in the Charlotte metro area, so similar to Saturday. But the focus will really be up in the mountains as well. At times, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those wind chills dropping down to 20 to 25 below zero. So dangerously cold conditions. You don't want to be out when it's that cold. I mean, we're talking about hypothermia in little to no time. And if you have pets, please make sure they're inside. It's going to be absolutely so cold for everyone. As far as those winter impacts go, just want to show you this graphic really quick as we're looking at Saturday's winter storm system. Remember, this is a Saturday event that we're looking at the snow. The winds will create that drifting and blowing snow. And I will mention that this is a snow that's very light. It's fluffy. It's easy to remove off your car. It's easy to shovel. It's not that heavy snow that kind of hurts your back if you're shoveling. So that's the upside. And it actually does make for great sledding and fun conditions to play out in. But if your kids want to play out, which I know they will because I was in the storm tracker tracking this last storm when there was sleet and ice, and there was tons of families just sliding on ice. Very excited. So I think a lot of people are, they're kind of looking forward to this event because it's so different. It's so out of the ordinary. I know there's a handful who don't even want anything to do with it, but I know that there's a lot of people who are just going to make the most of it. And like we've mentioned, this is a Saturday. Make it a fun Saturday snow day. 28 degrees on Saturday, 31 for our high on Sunday. We'll start to see temperatures climb into next week. Those single-digit temperatures on Monday, I mean, that is going to be brutal. Single digits, we're talking about 7 degrees Monday morning. That is going to be very cold, very dangerous, and if we have any wind, it's going to make it feel even colder than that. So, wrapping things up with our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Today, we're calling this the calm before the storm because it only makes sense. Tomorrow morning, we'll start to see that snow falling. Again, the highest totals will be up in the mountains and then east of I-95, but at this point, even in Charlotte, 4 to 7 inches, that is significant. And with that much snow, it's not going to melt anytime soon. So make sure once the snow comes to an end, if you can, you'll want to clear things away like your driveways, your parking lots, your stairs, whatever, because if you don't, it's going to just be all kind of iced over. Like some people still have that in their house or their driveways now because you didn't do anything last time.
Sidewalk.
Ice melt was sold out.
Yeah.
I still call every day this week.
Did you call all the stores?
I called on my way in this morning because I was
Really?
going to make a pit stop at, the big old depot for the home.
Yeah.
Nope, they don't have any. So
I'm there too. My parking spot is like just iced. It's like if you're not paying attention, you're falling. You
Oh
gotta pay
no!
attention.
I walk very intentionally.
Yeah.
I march, pick up my feet, so
Yeah.
it's like I plant.
I've had to change my dog walking route because some of the sidewalks in my neighborhood are still iced over.
Yeah. And
yeah.
the stairs I saw at my house were all iced over, and my dogs have to go down there to go to the bathroom, so I had to pound it away so at least
Right.
the ice
They
is
can
off
walk
the
through.
stairs so they don't get hurt.
And what happens if I don't have a shovel? Because I don't.
I don't either.
They're sold out of those too.
I think I was gonna ask my neighbor if I could use her leaf blower.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be the kind of snow where, truthfully,
just
you
blow
get
it
that
out.
thing going and it will be fine.
Yeah,
That's what
why
a lot
not?
of people used to do where I was from.
Yeah,
When it's not that
absolutely.
heavy snow,
Right.
Yeah.
all it takes. Or a broom.
Broom.
I mean, 7 inches, that's a bit
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
But, if you
That's
just have
good.
a small space
Yeah.
and you're just like,
Right.
You're trying to get
Right.
stuff out.
You don't want to put it into the other neighbor's home though.
No.
unless you don't like them. They'll say, whoops.
Ugh,
Whoopsie-doo.
Then they catch you on the Ring camera. Like, hey, gotcha. All right, Majestic. Thank you so much
Thank you,
for
guys.
letting us in on the stuff,
All
the good old
snow.
snowy stuff. Thank you.
Of course.
All right, we'll see you a little bit later, and we'll see you in 2 minutes. We're going to talk taxes. Yeah, tax season underway. Mark Henry is in the Live Impact studio. He's coming up on the other side of the break. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 9:16, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Tax season is underway, so before you rush to file this year, there are some important changes you want to know about, from new deductions to updated tax brackets. Even these changes could have a real impact on your refund. So joining us this morning is Mark Henry from Alloy Wealth Management. Mark, always nice to have you here in the Live Impact studio.
Thanks for having me on today.
So much to unpack here, right?
Yeah,
This
it's
tax
a lot.
season. Okay. It's okay because we have the time. And, you know, I think folks who have the time this weekend, as we heard from Majestic, they're going to be cooped up inside, maybe, instead of playing in the snow.
Time to get started.
Why not? Why not? Let's start with the basics. What are the big tax changes this year that we should be aware
the
of?
big beautiful bill. We have some good news in there. Is there's going to be a lot of deductions that people aren't expecting or didn't even know existed. Maybe they heard it in the news, but it's really real. So there's a bunch. First off, your standard deductions have changed, and they're actually bigger. So single filers, married filers, they have a larger standard deduction. So let's make sure we look at that. Make sure your tax software is up to date if you're a do-it-yourselfer. You got to get the new version, the latest version. Don't use an old one, okay? So, and about 90% of Americans actually take just the standard deduction.
Oh,
So remember,
makes it easy.
Yeah, it does. So if you want to do itemized though, there's some changes for that as well. So those have gone up. So we also have the senior deduction for people that are 65 and older. At the end of 25, they might be eligible for a senior deduction of $6,000 for a single person or $12,000 for a married couple filing jointly.
Oh.
So there's another little thing that's going in there. A lot of little changes. Some of the ones that are going to get the biggest attention though is things like if you bought a car in 25. Potentially, not again, there's always rules with everything, you might be able to write off the interest on the loan. Now, the car had to be assembled in the United States. Well, wait a minute. So I had to buy an American car. Not necessarily. It could be a foreign car that final assembly point was in the United States, and that happens a lot. So they build part of it overseas, and then they ship it over here, and final assembly is done here.
Okay.
But just because it's an American car doesn't mean it was built in the States. Be very careful on this one.
All right. So how do you find that out?
Right, so it's a great question. So there's a lot of data that you can go to with Chat GPT and other things like that will actually tell you. But you can actually look at your car. In the door, it'll say final assembly point.
Oh.
And if it says good old USA, you're golden.
You're good. Okay.
Right.
Hey, it's worth the effort. Look,
Yeah.
all right, good.
So, but you always have to look at the details. Don't just
Right.
assume you qualify for anything.
Okay.
Now, this is a big one for people is overtime tax deduction. You may now qualify for overtime. To qualify, it has to be reported as overtime and things like that. But this can be a big one. And then the one that got so much press last year on your news and everyone's was simply the tip deduction.
Right.
So is that real? Well, it actually is. But this is interesting. A lot of people don't know this. If you're forced to tip, you say, well, nobody's forced to tip. Not true. A lot of restaurants are adding a gratuity to the bill. That does not count for a tip deduction. So if your employer's doing that, tell them to quit because you can't write the tip off.
Oh,
If
my
you're
goodness.
making the patron pay for the tip,
Right.
you can't write it off. So it has to be one where they just said, you did a good job, here's $20.
Yeah.
That gets written off.
Because in a lot of tourist-centric areas, they will go ahead and write in a gratuity, automatic gratuity.
Or
All
parties
right.
of 4 or more, 6 or
Oh,
more,
right,
something like
exactly.
that. Yeah, so again, if it's forced tipping, it doesn't
Do
count.
not. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So besides deductions, what are some of the other changes that could impact one's bottom line, whether they owe or receive?
Yeah, well, this is why I always encourage people to file early. And the reason for filing early is it gives you time to look for all this stuff. When you're panicked and it's due next week, it's due on Thursday or something, all of a sudden you tend to look over things. This gives you time to really look at it and think about, do we get the child tax credit this year? And again, that's up to $2,200. It's a $200 increase from last year. So a lot of stuff has changed or gone up to make it actually better for the people filing. Now, lowering your taxes.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Unfortunately, most everything that you might have been eligible for to do to lower them for this year should have been done before the 31st of last year. But there are still a few things you can do right up till tax time, which would be contribute to an IRA or a Roth IRA if you're allowed to, or your Roth account. So there are some deductions you still can do, and that's sometimes a reason why somebody might want to file late or delay filing so they can put more. Oh, I can't put it all in this month, but if you give me next month and the next month, I could put another $1,000 in. That could save people some taxes. So that's a reason I could get around delaying. Obviously, still has to be done in time. Now, you do find that one of the things that people are concerned about is identity theft.
Right.
You can only file one tax return per Social Security number. So there is this idea that if you file early and get your refund, no one can then do fraud and try to claim your refund because you've already claimed it.
Oh, okay. That's a
So
little
I don't know.
self-protection.
I don't know how I feel about that, but I
Right.
guess it's an incentive for
Hey,
filing early.
It's another reason to file early. And this can actually save people money too by filing early.
Well, it can get them the refunds faster. Let's at least go with that.
Okay,
Obviously,
right.
filing early can at least get your things. It eliminates the need for you to file an extension. And, again, if you're going to owe and you file an extension, then you're going to start accruing interest on that and loans and stuff because you didn't pay on time. So going ahead and like this weekend may be the perfect weekend with the snowstorm of getting everything together and let's get started. Let's get down to the accountant's office or the tax preparer or the do-it-yourself. Go buy the software today before the snowstorm and go ahead and get it done.
Yeah, no, and all of the new deductions and changes at least get caught up on how
Right.
this might affect you moving forward. Any other piece of advice as folks start,
Well,
preparing to prepare?
Yeah, if you find when you do this that it's overwhelming, let's do something so the next year's not, which would be start contributing to all these accounts, the 401s, the IRA, so you're in a better tax position next year. Because again, trying to do it all at one time is really hard, but when you contribute to your IRA and your 401, at least get the match your company's offering, and all of a sudden you find next year you're in such a better position this time next year.
Yeah, your message sometimes is, you got to start now. You can't wait. Whatever you want to see next year, you got to actually kind of put steps now.
That's
so
right.
It's never too late. Mark Henry from Alloy Wealth, thank you for breaking this down for us. Appreciate you as always. And we'll see you for more Money Matters down the line on WCNC Charlotte. And we'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back to Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Time right now is 9:26. I'll tell you what's on tap this morning. North Carolina Governor Josh Stein is expected to give a press conference at 11 this morning as we prepare for more wintry weather, this time in the form of snow, from what it sounds like from Majestic. So by all accounts, a much better situation as far as the form of precip that we are going to receive. So that's going to be at 11. We'll bring that to you here live on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. And we will keep you covered throughout the weekend, with this mostly being a Saturday event. That's what it sounds like. We're going to be here on the stream. Just keeping tabs on the radar and how to keep your home, your pets, your people, your roads, your car, all out of harm's way. Right now, want to shift gears here a little bit because I want to talk about middle school students. I know a lot of them are on a 2-hour delay or doing some remote learning. We've been that way throughout the week because of last weekend's wintry storm. But there's another look at how students are having the chance this time to advance their learning and really get some money because of it. A chance to compete for a $100,000 prize while showcasing their knowledge of American government and civic engagement. How cool is that? It's the National Civics Bee Championship. They're now accepting applications. Hillary Crow, VP of Civics for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, joining us live here now. Good morning, Hillary. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
So tell us about the National Civics Bee. What makes this year's competition so special?
Well, the National Civics Bee is a nationwide competition that invites middle school students, so 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, to really increase their civic learning, but to be inspired and to learn about how they can engage in their communities and create positive change in their own neighborhoods. And of course,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, this year, of course, is 2026. It's America's 250th birthday. And so it's a real opportunity, one, to think about where we are as a country, but really to focus on the next 250 years and how we can make sure that future generations are equipped and empowered to participate in our system of government and in their communities locally.
The National Championship in D.C., what can students expect if they advance?
Well, $100,000 prize is on the line for the champion. We will have this year finalists from all 50 states, plus Washington, D.C., and American Samoa. And they will have an opportunity to meet students from all across the country, to showcase their skills, to meet some incredible judges, and to have a chance of winning that $100,000 prize.
Fantastic. The application does require students to write an essay. What would you want them to write about?
Whatever is important to them. We really encourage students to find an issue in their community that they're passionate about, that they care about, and to think about how could they use civics to approach that issue. So how could they talk to their local representatives or school leaders or their businesses and nonprofits in their communities to think about a solution to a problem that they are really passionate about. And that inspires learning, research, critical thinking, and all sorts of skills that are important for their development as they as they grow, but also as they go through the competition.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many, often we especially during election season, we're in the newsroom saying, who remembers their civics class? Anyone a civics specialist here? We always have to go back to the books and refresh our memories from those times. The impact on students who do participate in this competition, what would you say that's like?
Well, at our 2025 National Championship, I had a couple of the finalists come up to me and say, this competition changed my life. And that really was an incredible moment. And what we've seen, we actually retained Johns Hopkins University to do a longitudinal study on the competition with us. And so they're measuring qualitative and quantitative impact. And in addition to students, of course, increasing their civic knowledge as part of the competition, they're increasing their confidence and their public speaking, their critical thinking, their leadership skills, their ability to speak up and find their voice about things that matter to them, and also, of course, learning about how to really engage in their community and how to bring positive change to those around them.
Yeah, those skills are definitely intangible. A lot of them are. For students in our Carolinas, North and South Carolina, how can they apply and what should they know?
Well, they should know that our deadline to participate for this year is February 3rd, which is, of course, quickly approaching. And they should go to nationalcivicsbee.org and submit an essay by the deadline on February 3rd, which is 11:59 p.m. And we hope that they will participate and could be our next champion from North Carolina or South Carolina.
All right. Anything else you want our viewers to know about the National Civics Bee Championship?
We just want every middle school student out there, whether they're homeschooled, private school, public school, charter school, to participate. So go to nationalcivicsbee.org and submit your essay over this weekend.
Again, another good thing to do while people are cooped up because of our snowstorm coming through. All right, thank you so much, Hillary Crow from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. The National Civics Bee Championship application is February 3rd. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. And we'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Back here now at 9:34 in Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We have a couple of important weekends coming up. It is our Scouting for Food, where we're helping out Nourish Up, and the Boy Scouts get food for our community. And our Larry Sprinkle is doing his good deed and letting us know and get caught up. If you haven't heard about Scouting for Food, this is his report now on WCNC Plus.
It's that time of the year, Scouting for Food. Scouts will make sure that people all across the area have a door tag. If you got one, Saturday, February 7th is the day. Leave a bag or a box of food for families in crisis right here in our area. Tina Postel is the CEO of Nourish Up, and this is our 34th year of combining together. I mean, and the need is more than ever this year.
Absolutely. It's been a season, my friend, and we need the community's help to make it a successful one.
I mean, the need is I mean, when you think about last year, 170,000 people, it could be more this year.
Oh, absolutely. We are facing unprecedented times, and you know, government programs like SNAP or food stamps are slowly dwindling away, and so people are reaching out for the first time in history to a food pantry in order to put food around their table for their loved ones.
Talk about Nourish Up. What does the organization actually do?
Well, at Nourish Up, we are a network of emergency food pantries. We actually have over 40 locations now, all throughout Mecklenburg County, in churches, government agencies, medical buildings, college campuses, and we do grocery home delivery. So we make sure that we provide groceries and also Meals on Wheels to anybody in our community that needs a little help.
And this is a week's worth of food for a family family in need and crisis at the moment, right?
Absolutely. So this is our largest food drive of the year. We could not do it without those amazing scouts who go door to door and help us collect food. And all the food they collect is going to land on pantry shelves, just like the shelves behind us. And then families can come in and shop for the food that they love, that their kids love, that they know how to prepare. And we're going to make sure everybody is well nourished.
But this food is free to those people. It's a week's worth of food given to them. They come in and shop, but they pay nothing for it, right?
Right. We say that it's not a handout, but it's a hand up.
Right.
Because at any point in time, we could all need a little extra help. So groceries are free of charge. Clients are allowed to come up to 12 times in any rolling calendar year, but most families need us 3 times or less.
Right.
They just need that little boost to get back up on their feet again.
When we talk about the people, who are these people that need Nourish Up?
It's always surprising, Larry, because oftentimes people think of a hungry person as an unhoused or homeless individual, and they certainly can be hungry as well. But we are seeing hardworking families. We see seniors on fixed incomes, and it always surprises our pantry volunteers when you see people come in and shop for food. Many of them are gainfully employed. They're just living paycheck to paycheck.
So the simple thing is, Scouts send out the door tags, leave a bag or box of nutritious food at the doorstep, and that helps out, right?
The Scouts definitely do the heavy lift for us, so they make it as easy as possible. So leave a big heavy bag for those Scouts, and they will make sure that it gets here to Nourish Up, and we will get it out to our network of emergency food pantries.
Helping neighbors in need, people right here in our community. Let's make sure all of these shelves are filled. At Nourish Up, Larry Sprinkle, WCNC Charlotte.
All right, we hope you fill up your bag or fill up a bag of groceries if you do see the tag on your door when they come around for scouting for food. We'll be right back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Back here now at 9:40 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We're following some breaking developments out of Italy. This is Olympian superstar Lindsey Vonn. We learned that she crashed in her final downhill before the Olympics, and she was airlifted from the downhill slope. She was seen left limping and keeping the weight off her left knee. The 41-year-old hoping to return to Cortina to just kind of close out her career, as we've been following following her here. She was expected to be one of the stars of the Olympics, and now her status at this point is uncertain. So right there on the headline from NBC News, Lindsey Vonn, airlifted from course after crash in the final downhill before the Olympics, I should say. So something we'll be watching out for, as of course WCNC Charlotte is your place to watch everything Olympics. Opening ceremony is next Friday, February 6th. In other breaking news, we are continuing to follow developments out of Minnesota, where this is a live picture right now from our content partner in Minneapolis, from CARE. It is a live picture, so you'll see the photojournalist with the camera just moving from position to position. But there is a protest at this point regarding the latest shooting and, of course, of ICE and Border Patrol. Right now, we're also learning that FBI is now going to run the investigation on the killing of Alex Preddy that happened last week. Our Alice Barr in Minneapolis now with the very latest developments out of Minnesota.
Shutdown struggles reemerging on Capitol Hill as overnight a plan to fast-track a government funding vote hit a snag in the Senate, with at least one senator objecting, just hours after President Trump announced a deal had been reached.
We've gotten along very well. We're working on trying to get it to stay open.
5 sources say the plan was to pass a chunk of government funding while splitting off the Department of Homeland Security and taking 2 weeks to negotiate immigration enforcement reforms Democrats are demanding, including ending roving raids and no agents in masks. Bipartisan lawmakers have signaled a willingness to negotiate.
To make sure that we rein in ICE appropriately and make it more professional.
Congress must stop them.
President Trump overnight appearing to shift course again on his administration's response in Minneapolis, asked if immigration enforcement agents would soon start pulling out.
No, not at all.
That after earlier in the day, his border czar, Tom Homan, said this.
My main focus now is drawdown.
Adding that reducing federal manpower in the city depends on cooperation with state and local law enforcement for more targeted migrant removals, focusing in jails and prisons.
The mission is going to improve.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry in Washington pressing for a full federal pullout and an overhaul of officer conduct as his city reels from this month's deadly shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy.
People can see with their own eyes how the funding for ICE is being utilized right now, and it's not creating safety in our communities, it's causing chaos. And so there's a number of really...
In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News. ...that are being packaged.
We're getting you weather impact alert for tomorrow. It's a snow day that we're expecting here in the Carolinas. We'll check in with SCDOT after the break. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 9:46 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, we're getting you ready for the weekend again. We're going to have a snowstorm coming into the Carolinas tomorrow. We're going to follow up with North Carolina Governor Josh Stein. He has a live press conference coming up at 11. In the meantime, SCDOT getting South Carolinians prepared with this storm briefing. This is from yesterday, but if you missed it, here it is now on WCNC Plus.
Andy Leapart, and then several folks from our Richland maintenance team that are working round the clock right now, getting ready and for the storm. We'll be responding afterwards. Charles Kraft, Steve Altman, Jody Britt, and Andy Rowe. So these folks will be up here. Hopefully we can answer all your questions that we have. So obviously we have begun operations, have been continuing operations from Winter Storm Fern. Those were starting to ramp down earlier this week, but we saw the forecast indicating that we are going to have potentially another round of winter weather from Winter Storm Gianna. Starting Friday night, going in through Saturday and into Sunday. This is going to be a different storm. So Winter Storm Fern was something that we had to work for. It was forecast to be an ice event, predominantly in the upstate. What we are seeing is the forecast that we are seeing coming out of the National Weather Service and other forecasters is that this could be a significant snow event, particularly here in the Midlands, around the Charlotte metropolitan area, in the PD, as well as into the upstate. So it has the potential to be a statewide snow event that we will be ready to respond and be active in helping getting South Carolina moving again. So what we do anticipate is that travel conditions, if we do see that type of snow falling, would become dangerous and hazardous with those type of snow accumulations falling on our roadways, particularly if we see several inches of snow in those areas. So let me tell you what DOT is doing right now. Our crews are out in our bridges in anticipation of this storm. So you will see DOT trucks spraying brine on the roads right now and getting ready for this storm, which will help us keep the roads open as long as we possibly can, but also will help us clear the roads afterwards. Tomorrow, we are prepared to go into 24-hour operations, and we will be in 24-hour operations through the duration of the event. What that means, we have 3,000 employees that are now on will be going on to shift work and will be prepared to work through the duration of the storm. We have 1,200 pieces of equipment that are ready to go. And we've been spending the past several days getting our equipment ready, restocking our salt supplies, being ready to make the brine that is needed to go on the roadways to be ready to respond and ultimately recover from this event. So what I want the public to know is that we are ready for this event. We have been preparing for this event, but I think the public needs to be prepared that this could be a very significant event in terms of the amount of snowfall. So what we ask is as we see what actually falls on the ground from the forecast, the folks need to be patient. It will take us some time to clear the roadways to get South Carolina moving again. But, other important thing for us, we want to encourage folks to realize is that travel in snow and ice can be dangerous. It can be hazardous. Well, we encourage once the snow starts to fall, we encourage people to stay home and to avoid travel at all costs. But if they have to travel, travel with some common sense and caution. Drive slowly. Give adequate space between other vehicles and you. And, certainly be prepared for the possibility that you might get stuck in snow. So having a snow emergency kit, and there's a lot of resources out there from the state's emergency management division on how to be winter storm ready. But what I want everybody to be confident in knowing is that we are prepared. We are actively working to get ready for this storm. We will work through the duration of the storm. And when it is over, we will continue to work until the roads are reopened and cleared. With that, I'll open it up to questions from y'all.
Hi, are there any specific roadways in Richland County that people should be mindful of that might take the longest when it comes to this weather?
So let me just kind of talk about our order of not only how we pre-treat, but then when we actually start clearing the roadways, we'll be focused first on our interstates. So that'll be I-20, I-26, I-77. Those will be the first priority, and then we'll start moving into what we call our primary routes. So the US 1s, the US 378s, focusing on those first. The last of what we will treat will be those secondary roads, those neighborhood streets. So we focus on where the traffic is, but we focus on those highest priority routes first.
Secretary, we have some viewers from the Low Country and the PD region tuned in as well. Do you mind giving them some examples of those primary routes?
Sure. Definitely in the Charleston area, the focus will be on I-26, I-526, the Ravenel Bridge, Highway 17. Those are going to be our priorities there. Similarly, in the Myrtle Beach metropolitan area, we're going to be focused on US 501, SC 22, SC 31, those kind of major east, west, north, south arteries in those communities.
We had a few incidences here in the Midlands with particularly the on-ramps, off-ramps in this past storm this past weekend. Are you going to be paying any special attention to those?
You know, we'll be focusing first on getting the interstates open and then working on those off ramps. So we're going to be focused on mainline traffic first. So what we encourage the public to do is to be very cautious when they're getting on and off the roadways, recognize there will be snow and ice on the roadways, to be cautious and to safe. It's going to take us time to get things reopened across the state.
Hi, how much time do you think it'll take you to get the highways back open after the snow stops falling?
You know, if I could predict how much snow would fall, I would tell you I probably would be in the business that we're in right now. So what I would say is it really will depend upon how much actually falls, where it falls, and the time it takes. So I would say is what we will be focused on is getting out there immediately, working through our priorities and addressing it. But until we actually see what falls on the ground, it's hard for us to say exact timelines.
And for plows, how many plows do you guys have, and how many inches of snow do you guys need to actually have to be able to plow snow off the roads?
I mean, we can plow if it's an inch or 5 inches on the roadways. We have about 1,200 pieces of equipment, and that's in plows, that's in spreaders, in terms of brine trucks. So we will be basically deploying every piece of equipment that we can put out to use. We'll be putting it out on the roadways. You know, even that motor grader out there might be put into service as well for us.
Do you have a threshold for canceling flights? You know, how much snow needs to fall before you?
So we don't have aviation, so I would have to defer to the airports.
When do you guys start spreading the brine?
So that started this morning. So we're already out there. So what I would encourage people is you're going to see our brine trucks, particularly on our interstates and on major highways across the state. You know, encourage you all to give space to them so you don't get sprayed in the process, but also allow us to do our operations safely and protect the employees. You know, we've got 3,000 employees that have been working round the clock for this one. Will be the third storm weekend that they've worked a storm. So they are working hard on behalf of the people of South Carolina.
And sir, are there any tips that you could give to viewers as far as how to prepare their vehicles maybe while being on these roadways if they do have to, you know, travel during the weekend?
Obviously, you know, check your fuel, check your tires, make sure that you have equipment for de-icing, a scraper, things like that. One thing I would encourage folks to do is we have our 511 SC app. You can find that on the Google as well as the Apple stores. That gives you real-time traffic information on what's going on across the state. It also has the traffic cameras, so you can rely upon that and have a lot of information at your hands.
Secretary, from ABC 15, can you speak a little bit to how SCDOT makes the decision to close roads in a winter storm event?
Yeah, it's going to be based on what's actually on the ground at that point in time. What we're going to be focused on is trying to maintain those major routes as long as we possibly can.
And now what are you guys doing to keep yourself safe while you guys are out there doing that work?
You know, we do a safety talk every time we get our folks out there. We're making sure that they have the right equipment, making sure that folks have been trained. This is not the first rodeo for these operators in terms of being out in winter weather. These folks are professionals and been able to go through this before. And so, but what I would encourage though is the public to make sure if you see a plow out on the road, if you see a brine truck out on the road, give us space. Let us have the room to do the work that we need to do to get the traveling public safe and secure for themselves.
It's the biggest difference in preparation from last week to this week. We're talking ice to snow. What would be the biggest difference?
So I think the biggest difference, obviously, we were doing a lot of the same paces that we did on this event in terms of pre-treating the roads, having folks ready to go. I think the bigger concern we had during the last event was the possibility of trees and debris falling on the roadways. So we had made preparations for that. With this being more of a snow event, we think that it's more of getting the accumulation off the road is going to be the biggest challenge.
And any more advice that you could give those drivers out there not used to these conditions?
Well, I think it's kind of two things. One, be safe, be smart, be able to give distance, be able to recognize your braking is going to be slower and that you need more distance to do it, that you may slide in that process. But at the end of the day, staying off the roads is probably the best advice I can give folks when it really starts coming down in terms of snow.
Once a road has been treated, approximately how long is it considered, working the brine? I mean, this is a slow-moving storm. Are roads going to have to be retreated, or?
I would anticipate that we're going to be making multiple passes in terms of applying multiple layers of brine through things. Again, it's going to depend on what actually falls, but what we will do is we'll keep at it, again, working our priority of interstates, primary routes, and then getting into the secondary system from there.
One last question from the live stream is how we work together at SCDOT with local governments during a storm.
Sure. So no, we take a lot of pride in South Carolina being Team South Carolina. So we work closely with our partners at the Highway Patrol, National Guard. All of us are going to have Emergency Management Division, all have a role and a part to play in it. We have relationships and agreements with local governments. So oftentimes they will step up and assist us and vice versa in terms of sharing brine and supplies, but also plowing roads together.
What would be the biggest operational challenge here in South Carolina to prepare for these weather events?
Well, I mean, I think it's, we're in South Carolina. Folks come here for the weather, not necessarily for snow and ice. But so, it's not something we deal with normally. We do have the infrastructure to deal with it, but we're not Buffalo, New York in terms of what we have to deal. So we'll be ready to deal with it. Our folks are experienced and prepared, but know that it's going to take a snowfall potentially in the multiple inches, 6-7 inches is going to take us a little bit of time to work through. All right.
So the brine and the salt can be kind of hard on the roads, as we know, and it's important, though, to have it there to make sure that we can all drive on them. But with so many multiple storms back to back, are you worried about the condition or the impact that this will have on the roads?
I think my biggest concern is making sure that the people of South Carolina are safe, and so we'll apply what we need to do to make sure that the traveling public is safe.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I've got from the live stream, and are we closed out here? All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank y'all. Appreciate it.
All right, that was SCDOT, and it looks like right now NCDOT is holding a live press conference. Let's go ahead and dip into this now on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
We've made some good progress early on as the temperatures coming out of the storm are right about freezing and had some warming on Monday. But we still do have icy spots that we're continuing operations on. In addition to ongoing operations, we started brining on 2 days ago. To date, we have about 320,000 gallons of brine on the roads, and those operations are starting to end as we prepare for this next winter event. Right now, we're hearing this event is going to be and not like last one. There's not much of a threat of ice, which is good news, but we are looking at 4, 6, 8, and maybe more inches of snow through the region. So that'll be a full snow event. Also, it's going to be colder in this event. When the snow's coming down, we're looking at temperatures, a high tomorrow at 21, and then couple that with high winds. We're hearing gusts potential of maybe 30, 35 miles an hour, depending on where you're at through the division. That with 30, 35 mile an hour gusts, we do have that potential for down trees, and we will have a few cut and shove crews available ready to respond. The operations will pushing operations will start tonight and go on a 24-hour basis. We have, similar to last time, roughly 135 DOT plow trucks and an additional 145 contract trucks.
All right. Looks like that shot went out all of a sudden.
Looks like they're done.
I guess we wrapped up. So that's fine, because at 10:01 we saw a quick peek here at Chris Mulcahy, who is here in the Live Impact studio on WCNC Plus. We're going to let him get everything going here and take a quick break and check in with him on your weekend weather on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 10:04, welcome back to Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. As promised, we have Chris Mulcahy in here now because we need to talk about the weather. It is our top story in the Carolinas once again for the weekend, but this sounds a lot better than it did last weekend, Chris.
Yeah, ice causes widespread power outages, and we're lucky that we did not see that compared to Nashville, that still is about just under 20% of their power grid that still isn't working. But we could still have some intermittent power outages, but it's still not great if you're driving, plain and simple. And this is what I tell a lot of people. If we were in New York City, they have pretty much as many plows as we have people, it seems, because they're going to have a huge team. Now, that was an exaggeration, of course, but we still have a moderate to a major impact here. And I was reading this earlier about what exactly that means, and here I'm going to actually bring that up. So whenever you're under a major impact, what that means is that you are, hold on, I'll read the exact verbiage, expect considerable disruptions to daily life. And if you're adding 4 to 7 inches, and that's what we're adding here for my most recent snow total update, avoid travel if possible. Now, some people have to work, but I would not be surprised if a lot of businesses are going to shut down here in Charlotte. It's Saturday. That also helps people, that it's not as busy as, say, like a middle of a Wednesday. And by the way, the last time that we had a significant snow up to 4 inches, it was Wednesday and it was very busy, so it led to a lot of disruptions as far as traffic goes. But widespread closures and disruptions are a possibility, and that's exactly what we're looking at for the near term. So as far as our totals go, here it is. My most recent total update, I moved things around a little bit that I think that we're calling for up to 4 to 7 inches of snow across the area. Now, one thing that's interesting is if you look further off towards the east, there's this little dip of this light blue. Here, I'll point it out. I have a tool to do that. So it's right in here. The reason why I have that is we actually have 2 weather systems that are passing by. One that dances over here, and then the other one is a coastal low, and that's why you're seeing some of the heavier totals here. But we're looking at snow for a long duration. There's 2 things that really control how much snow we get: the intensity and the duration. There's a bunch of other factors, snow ratios and stuff like that. But when you have a dry snow like we're talking about, it gives you a much better chance for some higher totals. So overall, looking at the long term, we're going to see snow arrive after midnight tonight. And I think that we have the worst of the conditions really anywhere through the morning and through the afternoon and the evening. Now, the winds are going to turn up. And we're talking about gusts of 25 to 35 miles per hour, which I think is also going to lead to some power outages, not because of how strong the winds are, but because of trees. There are a lot of branches out there that are cracked, and you don't even realize it because a 1/4 inch of ice is still over 100 pounds in some of these branches. Some people saw up to about a 1/2 inch, which could be up to 500 pounds. So that's why I think that you're going to have a lot of down branches from pretty much the leftovers, kind of a compound interest from what we had from the ice storm. And then our power outages, if we have them later in the afternoon, heading into the evening. But drifting snow, I think, is a good possibility. And that also brings up our temperatures, where they're going to be. So we dropped down to 22 this morning. We're 32 right now. Later on this afternoon, we have 41 degrees. And then we have pretty much a mostly cloudy to an overcast sky. And then here comes the main event. So here's the timing before we get into any more details. I want everyone to know that the winds are not your friend for this event. So many times we have a nice gentle snow, it's quiet, the winds are barely blowing, it's really peaceful. I don't think that's going to be the entirety of this event. I'm not saying it's going to be howling blizzard conditions, but at times when you add more snow to the equation, you're going to have a lot of blowing snow that's going to reduce visibility. So let's get there first. By 9 p.m., you're not talking about snow here in Charlotte. I think it's overcast. I think the winds are starting to pick up a little bit at that point. Any accumulating snow is going to be right along the Tennessee border, and then it starts to expand. After midnight to the midnight heading into the following day, that's as big as our snow window could be for the Charlotte area. Realistically, I think it's anywhere from about 4 o'clock till about 8 o'clock in the evening that you see really between about 3 and 6 a.m. that snow starts to take over. However, I was mentioning that there is the possibility that we could have a division between the 2 systems. So notice over in here, you don't have as much activity. So this is the one thing I think that would change on our snow map, just depending on how much dry air is going to work in between the 2. This brings us up to 7 o'clock. At that point, we're seeing just some lingering flurries along the I-40 corridor, but our snow accumulations are starting to wind down. And then by about midnight, it's pretty much past and gone. We're even starting to clear things out, and that leads to a whole other boatload of problems. So 4 to 7 is the forecast range I have right now. A lot of models are showing that there's going to be some intermittent heavier totals because we're going to have what's called snow bursts or even snow squall lines that will rapidly reduce the visibilities, but you could dump up to 1 inch per hour compared to more of a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch that's going to be our main accumulation in the short term. It's also that fluffy snow blows around, so we could have some bigger snow drifts as well. But if this were to bust, if we have a duration cut in half, dry air takes over, our bust zone is not no snow, it's still 2 inches. So this is the best snow setup that you can have. It's called a Miller A nor'easter setup. That's where you have the best duration for snows and the most moisture that starts to move in overall. But the boom, talking about the snow jackpot, could be over 8 inches from place to place. So looking at our snow potential again, it's areas further off towards the east that you have that 7 to 9, but I think east of the I-95 corridor because you have that deep low that's off the coast. And I haven't even got to the point that coastal flooding is an issue for them. Beach erosion is an issue. You're talking about pretty much almost a winter tropical storm that's going to be off the coastline with hurricane gusts up to 75 miles per hour. The Outer Banks are going to get rocked by this system. And that's what's giving us, I think, our heaviest snow totals, that there will be some double-digit amounts in the eastern Carolinas. But for us, it's just about how intense that snow is in between for the near term. So looking at our durations, notice how those wind gusts that I was showing you you before, are gusting anywhere from 15 to 25 and getting a little bit higher. That's going to impact our wind chills. So looking at our 7-day forecast, here it is. 26 degrees for a high on Saturday. I think we have sunshine, but likely are just below freezing on Sunday. But I now have a low of 7 degrees come Monday. 7 single degrees. So that would actually be substantial just because of everything with the winds, with that colder air that's moving in. It's a lot of that snow cooled air. I'm going to take a step back real quick. Our snow probabilities, I showed you this yesterday, and I had one column, the first one here, 100% chance for 0.1. Now we have a 100% chance for 1 inch of snow. We have a 97% chance for 2 inches of snow. And yesterday we had about a 60-something% chance for 4 inches. Now that's up almost close to 90. And then even a 50-50 shot at 8 inches. So this continues to trend up just because about how long it's sticking around. This is a long-term snow event, which is not great for our coverage just because there's not going to be a lot of changes hour by hour. Each hour is just going to be cold and windy, but that snow is just going to be a slow trickle, and by the end, we're really going to see some of those substantial totals. So on the back end of this, what I'm really concerned about is going to be the wind chills. So that's why we already have a cold weather alert, not just for the mountains, but for the entirety of the area. So all of the Charlotte area currently is under an extreme cold watch, and an extreme cold watch is issued for the Charlotte area whenever you have a chance for wind chills to hit 0 or less, or 15 below 0 or colder for the mountains. That's exactly what we could see in the long term, which I don't like to see. So I want to go through our future cast for our wind chills. Again, this is such a tiny screen whenever I'm in here. So here's what it looks like when the kids are maybe sledding in the morning. This is 4 a.m. Most likely, I think the prime sledding time is going to be maybe around noon. The winds are actively going to be blowing. You have blowing snow. I think the kids are still going to enjoy themselves, but it's not as a winter wonderland as people are thinking, because it's actually going to feel anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees above 0, luckily. But I'm not sure about you, but being at 5 to 10 degrees for the duration of the day, this is not we're outside playing in the snow all day. It gets dangerous at that point. So I just want people to know that this isn't just this time frame. We could still feel as much as 0 to 5 heading into the Saturday evening, and that's why we have that extreme cold weather watch, because by Sunday, I think we could have wind chills around 0. Around the sun is rising up. So this is going to be the coldest part, but then also behind this, for Groundhog Day, which is Monday morning, I now, because of that snow-cooled air, have a low of 7 degrees. The record for that day is 10 degrees. The last time we were this cold, December 24th, 2022, we had a numerous amount of water main breaks. We had a bunch of water pipe breaks for people across the area. And then that's why, instead of just dripping your pipes, as I tell you so often, we have to stream. So I have a good friend named Chris Ritter, the coolest plumber you'll ever meet, by the way. And you're going to notice that his accent is not from here. I'm from the Massachusetts area. So I actually reached out to my friend Chris Ritter and said, hey, with a forecast like what we're going to have, should we be dripping our pipes? Should our faucets? Should we be streaming? So my man Chris has an answer for you. Let's get to Chris Ritter.
Chris, it's your favorite Boston plumber, checking in, making sure you're staying warm, your pipes aren't freezing. Make sure, if you can, you keep your cabinets open under your sinks. Keep the water running, not just a drip. It's got to be a good trickle for it not to freeze. So stay warm. Go Pats, baby. Woo!
So that was perfect. No, seriously, one of the coolest guys you're ever going to meet, but then also a great advice as well. I literally use him as my plumber card every once in a while. I was behind my fridge one time. I was like, Chris, I have no idea what I'm doing. I need your help. And he sent me the best advice ever. But in general, what I learned from Chris and kind of adjusting my own thinking, because this graphic used to say when temperatures are 28 degrees or colder for 4 hours or more, you drip your faucets. But now I have also learned, along with you, that isn't enough when you're below 20 degrees for 4 hours or more, especially if you're talking about multiple hours in the single digits that we could have. So starting on Saturday night, Sunday night, and Monday night, we need you to stream the faucets, especially the ones that are the furthest away from, say, your main water source or your hot water heater. You want to make sure those are at a solid stream. Now, yes, this is going to affect your water bill, but then this is the way Chris put it, that you could have a few extra dollars on your water bill, or you could be paying me thousands of dollars to redo your pipes. So this is the way I have to say is this is one thing I do not want people to overlook just about how cold we're going to be. Because typically it's whenever you have fresh snow, brand new fresh snow, especially when we're this cold, then it makes you feel 2 to 7 degrees colder at night. So that's why Sunday night heading into Monday morning, we have a low of 7 degrees. Now, if we don't get as much snow, say it'll be closer to 10 plus, it's still going to be near record temperatures because typically 90% of the sun's rays are actually bounced off the snow. It still will melt when sun's making contact, that 10% that does, but it has such a high albedo. That's what it's called. And then evaporation and sublimation, these are cooling processes. So sublimation, by the way, is when a solid goes to a gas. Evaporation is when a liquid goes to a gas. So that's what reduces it and reduces some of the air as well. And then record lows are a good possibility, and that's exactly what we're seeing there. So thanks to my man Chris to let us know that we're going to stream, not streaming here like what we're doing on WCNC Plus, but stream our faucets, especially on Sunday night if you're going to do it. And if you also have exposed pipes, that's going to be a good reason to do it as well. And that's why we're also staying weather alert, because that's going to be a good possibility. So cold night, drip. When it's dangerously cold, that's when you want to stream. And I don't have the exact answer for this, but Hank, one of our digital directors, said, how many hours are we going to be below freezing? It's tough to call because the sunshine could bring us up just barely above freezing, but that snow cooled air is going to be tough to overcome on Sunday. But we are looking at below freezing temperatures for at least 48 hours up to 60 hours. It's pretty substantial. We'll be back above that on Groundhog Day. I have highs in the upper 30s. And then after that, we still linger teens, but I don't want to jump the gun. But we do have another chance for a wintry mix on Wednesday heading into Thursday. But as I mentioned, we're just going to ignore that one for now and focus in on the now.
One storm at a time or wintry situation.
Yeah, and lastly, this is a really cool segment that I want to end on some fun.
Okay.
First off, shout out to Brad Panovich because I did not have an active sled. So my producer made this Chris's Cool Dad Sledding Tips. So first time my parent had been called a cool dad. Number one, pick the right hill. The reason why I say this is if you know hills specifically, maybe you've been scouting them out, there are some hills that literally have some pipes sticking out of it. So you want to make sure that's the case. Also, I think the biggest choice here for picking the right hill is making sure what's at the bottom. Because sometimes there's a road at the bottom. And here's the deal. People are going to try to stop for you. But with the road conditions the way they're likely going to be, they're not maybe going to be able to stop. And we've also seen now 3 tragic incidences, mainly over in Texas, I think, from people trying to sled or doing sled and sometimes even behind a car that's never recommended. But also be careful about ponds being at the end of it. I've seen a lot of big stories because for most of the areas, like in the north, that pond's frozen over. That is not the case here. Even how cold it's been, those ponds are not frozen over. And also be a pro master steerer because you want to be able to lean and brake. You want to tuck. So what I always say is be able to lean back. And that is going to increase your aerodynamics, so you'll be able to go faster, but then also know when to emergency exit, know when to bail, bro, because at that point, you know that sometimes there could be a 10 sled pileup that you want to be mindful of that and just be able to dive over, especially when it's get crowded, because I guarantee those sledding hills are going to be crowded as well.
I bet. All right, cool dad, Chris.
Well, thank you. First time ever.
What do you think about having to hit the road on Sunday, running errands, going to church?
NCDOT does such a great job. If you can recall the day after the icing event, it was a lot of slushy roads, bridges and overpass still rough. The biggest thing is about areas that aren't treated in the shade, because the power of sunshine is going to melt a lot of this, and plus they're going to be putting some rock salt and other like chemical solutions on there. Don't let your pets eat any of that, by the way. That's going to melt a lot of it away. I think the bigger concerns is Sunday morning and Sunday night and Monday morning because of those refreeze situations, especially when temperatures get in the single digits. Those solutions aren't as effective. So you're going to have a lot more black ice. So I think the most treacherous travel is truly Monday morning, which I think it's another guarantee. CMS has been on 2-hour delays. I think that they're going to be closed again on Monday and prolonged at least remote or delays for most of next week, if not all.
All right. Yeah, sounds like it. Heard it here. Heard it first. On Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, we're going to keep you updated again tomorrow, Saturday, from 10 until 6. Special extended coverage here from the Live Impact studio, covering every step, every minute of this snowstorm heading this way. All right. Cool Dad Chris, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus in 2 minutes. At 10:22 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, we've been following the trial out of Fairfax County, Virginia. This of Brendan Banfield. He is accused of murdering his wife in this complex computer phishing, not scam, but a plot in order to kill his wife so he could be together with his au pair. He finished his testimony on the stand. These are closing arguments right now. Prosecution. So let's go ahead and listen in on Live Impact News.
Wounds were rapidly fatal, according to Dr. Kessler, and we saw that there was little to no blood from the chest wound. Iris Daly-Graf told you that he would have been incapable of movement following that second shot. Next. We saw evidentiary confirmation of the affair. The semen stains on Juliana's bed sheets. We also saw the photos of Juliana's clothing moved into the primary bedroom when the search warrant was executed in October following the murders. We saw the photos of Brendan and Juliana together, both before and after the murders. Her photos from her Instagram, their family photos in the bedroom after the murder. We saw the records from the shooting range for the purchase of the gun and the training of Juliana to shoot it. Slide 8. We saw the deactivation of the automatic locking feature on the front door at 5:47 a.m. the morning of the murders, done from Christine's phone by the person who knew how the locking system operated, Brendan Banfield. We saw Christine's phone turned off at 6:46 a.m. and hidden in a drawer in a bar table in the kitchen. This is just not where you keep your phone. This is not where we heard that this woman kept her phone. This is not where a person who's about to engage in potentially risky behavior puts her source of help. A floor away, turned off, in a drawer, off to the side of the kitchen. Just doesn't make sense. We saw Brendan Banfield drive to McDonald's and hang out, waiting for the call from Juliana. We see their call records, 10 and 11, between Juliana, Christine's phone, which is turned off, Brendan, Christine's phone, which is turned off. They're creating a record. It's a plan. It is premeditated. We see this false attempt to check in on Christine so that they can tell the story to the police when they arrive, that they did everything they possibly could. Next, we see the lock at the top of the basement door that Brendan Banfield did not think to engage to protect his daughter. Even under his own version of this event, he agrees he didn't think about it. He left his 4-year-old child in the basement with guns out, stranger in the house, and something happening that caused him to be concerned. We heard the 911 calls. We have a hang-up at 7:47 with Joe moaning in the background, and then a 15-minute gap before anyone calls 911 back. 8:02, 15 minutes between when someone in that house thought the police should be there and when they finally asked for help. We saw the body-worn camera and the photos from the scene. Blankets piled near the bodies. Brendan Banfield kneeling on this blue towel. The towel that has very little staining. Completely inconsistent with having been used to stop the flow of blood coming from Christine's neck. We heard that the carpet was soaked through to the subfloor. We saw Brendan Banfield's handcuffs that he didn't use. Magazines full of bullets he didn't shoot, collected from him after the murders. And finally, the blood evidence. You heard from Lieutenant Giacchio and former Deputy Chief Bruce that it was Iris Dallygraff's report that finally pushed this case over the edge and brought the charges against Mr. Banfield months before Juliana decided to flip. That's how strong this evidence is. That's how reliable this evidence is. Ms. Dallygraff walked us through so many inconsistencies in this scene, proving that it had been manipulated.
Want to give you a breaking news update right now as you see a live picture of the exterior federal court hearing for Luigi Mangione, who is facing some charges in the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Right now, we are learning he will not face the death penalty for allegedly shooting Thompson. This after a federal judge ruled just moments ago that he is going to be dismissed 2 of the 4 federal counts against Mangione. 1, murder through use of a firearm, which carries a potential death sentence, and then a related firearms offense. But he is still facing 2 federal stalking counts. For this, we know he has pleaded not guilty. But again, the 27-year-old Luigi Mangione, we know, will not face the death penalty for the charges of fatally shooting United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
What happened, if you are to believe Mr. Banfield? There's been no explanation for the bloody hand-like smears on Joseph Ryan's jeans containing Christine Banfield's DNA. There's been no explanation from defense for how his jeans ended up bunched under his rear. Next slide. There's been nothing to tell us why a mixture of Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield's blood, a mixture, could possibly have been on the inside of his waistband at the buttonhole, on the button, and on the zipper. Nothing from the defense to explain how Joe Ryan could possibly have manipulated his pants after being shot in the head, given that no other bleeding wounds were present. If his blood is on those pants, on that button, on that zipper, he was bleeding when they were touched. How could he, Joseph Ryan, have been the one to touch his button, his zipper, the waistband of his pants, to pull them down in that fashion? Brendan told you he never touched Joseph Ryan. And yet we have distinctive finger-shaped parallel lines on Joseph Ryan's arm and small circular stains consistent with blood having been dropped from above while Joseph Ryan lay on his back. Next. And then there's the blood on Joe's hip. Blood that traveled onto his body and then ran down to the floor with the assistance of gravity while he lay prone. It couldn't have come from his chest. That wound barely bled. He was laying down when blood was shed. Makes it pretty.
We will get back to the closing arguments for the Brendan Banfield au pair affair murder trial in just a few moments. We need to take a break here on Live Impact News on WCNC+. Right now at 10:33 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, looking at a live picture outside federal court in New York City, where we've just learned Luigi Mangione, the suspect in the murder for United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, was facing a number of federal counts against him, and 2 of them have been dismissed. A federal judge ruling moments ago that the federal count of murder through use of a firearm, which carries the potential death sentence, as well as a related firearms offense, are dismissed. And therefore, we now know that Mangione, at least the penalty for death, is off the table in his federal murder case. He does still face 2 federal stalking counts for which he has pleaded not guilty. Back here now in the Live Impact studio in WCNC Plus. Moments ago, I also wrapped up an interview with a Novant oncologist because January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. We want to play this for you now here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Well, January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and while cervical cancer is one of the most preventable cancers, many people still don't know enough about how to protect themselves. Joining us today is Dr. Malcolm Ross, an oncologist with Novant Health. Doctor, appreciate your time. We know you're really busy here in between surgeries and administration stuff. Let's start from the beginning here. Why is this highly preventable?
Sure, yeah, I think that's a great question. And a lot of that drives to the link to the HPV virus. 99% of cervical cancer is actually caused by HPV, and HPV, just like any other virus, can usually be cleared by the immune system, but in certain situations it doesn't. And in those situations, we usually see about a lag time of 10 to 15 years before it causes real problems beyond pre-cancer. And so this brings up two unique opportunities to prevent and to treat this problem. And the first focus is really on vaccination, which is our prevention. And then, as I mentioned, that lag time that's about 10 to 15 years brings up a great opportunity for a secondary heavy focus on screening and intervening before we progress to severe precancer or cancer itself.
All right, let's talk about the HPV vaccine. Who should get it, and how effective is it in preventing cervical cancer?
Sure. Obviously, another great question. So, vaccination is the most effective way to ensure protection against cervical cancer. It's one of the biggest wins in modern medicine. Currently, the vaccine in the United States covers 9 of the highest risk strains, and it can prevent greater than 90% of cervical cancer caused by HPV. I think it's also important to point out that this vaccine prevents vulvar, vaginal, anal, or oral head and neck cancers as well. The current recommendation is for male females age 11 to 12, but it can be given as young as age 9 and up to age 45. The real goal is to complete the vaccination series before the initiation of sexual activity. When we look at the older age group, people over age 26, it's really going to be a discussion between the person, the patient, and the healthcare provider as to whether that is appropriate.
Yeah, I would imagine that is a personal decision for families. How about women? How often should they get screened for cervical cancer, and what does that process involve?
Sure. So I will point out that currently there's more than 25% of women that are not up to date in their screening. It's important to also note that there's more than 8 different societies that give recommendations, but there's a lot of overlap, and screening should really start at age 21. For age 21 to 30, we usually just recommend a pap smear. One society does recommend HPV testing only. Once we get into ages above 30, it's a combination of a pap smear plus HPV or HPV and pap smear alone. And also want to point out that these guidelines should always be very individualized to the patient, discussion with the healthcare provider, what symptoms somebody might be having, their own underlying medical issues, compromised immune systems, or prior histories of abnormal pap smears or procedures done on the cervix.
All right, what are some of the early warning signs then of cervical cancer that women should watch out for? And then if you do find out early enough, what's the treatment process following?
Okay, so usually what we tend to see are symptoms that may not be completely out of the norm, but when you take them all together in constellation and you're seeing your healthcare provider, they can put together the puzzle and help make the diagnosis soon. So that would be changes in your bleeding pattern. That might be heavier cycles, bleeding in between cycles, bleeding with exercise or intercourse, and this is usually combined with pelvic pain or discomfort. That could be worsening back pain, again in combination with the bleeding. In a more advanced situation, you may see bleeding also with blood in the urine or in the stool. Again, a lot of these things may not be cervical cancer, so it's not that you should just jump to immediately thinking that you have cervical cancer, but they are warning signs, and you should seek regular care with the provider and let them know if something feels like it's changing related to these things.
Are certain women at higher risk than others for cervical cancer?
Sure. Pointing this out, I do want to say that this is the 3rd most common female cancer in the U.S., and it's actually the 3rd most common cause of death, with about 16,000 cases a year and 4,000 deaths a year. The people that are most at risk would be people that didn't receive the full vaccine series or the vaccine at all, people that may not have access or utilize regular screening or healthcare visits with their providers. Sort of touched on this a little bit earlier, but people with a weakened immune system, that could be from something like HIV or AIDS, or somebody that has a transplanted organ that might be on an intentional medication to suppress their immune system. As you pointed out earlier, this is largely driven by HPV, which is a virus, so a lot of this process is mediated by our immune system. In line with that, smoking also weakens the immune system. Other risk factors that we see are people with multiple sex partners or higher risk sex partners, having other HPV-mediated diseases, so this could be like genital warts, anal, vaginal, or vulvar, precancer, or cancer.
All right, so as we wrap things up here, Doctor, what is your message then to viewers from our conversation today?
I would say watching out for the signs and symptoms we discussed, seeking regular health care, talking to your providers, asking them if you have questions, concerns, and really an emphasis on vaccination for prevention and screening and staying on top of those things.
All right, Dr. Malcolm Ross from Novant Health. Appreciate the time. Great information today.
Yeah, thank you for having us on. Appreciate it.
Of course. At 10:42 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. So emergency management officials are discussing safety for North Carolina as we are approaching yet another snowy storm. This is going to be tomorrow, if you haven't heard, and our meteorologists are all over it. We are all over it here on WCNC Plus. Tomorrow, you can count on wall-to-wall coverage here on the stream alone here in the Charlotte market from 10 a.m. until 6, and then we'll pick it up with our WCNC Charlotte news team. In the meantime, let's go ahead to some of these live interviews happening right now. There's out of Raleigh, and it sounds like the transportation official is speaking now on Live Impact News.
So we were able to get out yesterday and do our pre-treatment with Brian, second time in a week, so we're getting pretty good at it. But we were able to treat everything we anticipated yesterday and giving the crews a little bit of a rest today in anticipation of our day and night shift starting at 7 o'clock tonight.
How did last weekend go with the roads?
So ice last week obviously was the biggest challenge, along with the cold temperatures. I think we still have some roads and shady spots where maybe the ice hasn't fully melted away from the streets, so that can present a challenge if snow falls on top. But looking forward to this coming weekend with the forecast of snow falling. We anticipate being able to hopefully push the snow off the road and then treat the roads with salt. So a little bit different type of accumulation than dealing with ice like we did last weekend.
How much brine have you guys used in the city of Raleigh limits within the past 2 weeks?
So it's 57,000 gallons per event, and we treat approximately 750 miles of streets.
That's a lot.
It is. It takes about 10 hours with our 12 trucks, but we've got it down to where everybody knows what their responsibility is, and it's kind of become a well-oiled machine.
Absolutely. Kind of explain a little bit more about those challenges of having these back-to-back events.
Obviously, staff is the first thing that comes to mind. If you go back 3 weeks, we had that threat of some wintry weather, so we had staff working that week.
All right, we're going to give that a second to shake loose. Apparently, a signal on that end out of our Raleigh crew is a little touch and go at times. In the meantime, we are awaiting a press conference from North Carolina Governor Josh Stein. That will be here at 11 o'clock, set for 11. We'll stand by and cut into it here on Live Impact News when it happens, whether it's here on the stream or on WCNC Charlotte on the linear side, on the broadcast side. We'll bring that to you and get you caught up.
Again,
back
based
to
on
Raleigh
traffic
Transportation now on
and
Live Impact News.
Our priority is to get those routes clear first before we move down to the next sets of priorities, and neighborhood streets would fall down to what we call a priority 4, which would be several days into an event, and typically Mother Nature kicks in and we aren't required to go down those streets.
Even though this is a type of different precipitation, like snowfall compared to ice last weekend, does it change any way like people should approach or like prepare for safetyness this weekend?
I would call it the same type of preparations. Those that can stay home, hopefully they will stay home and give the first responders, emergency services, the local utility companies, and of course the road crews the ability to work and work safely without traffic out on the roads. And again, the snow versus ice conversation, I would treat it the same as far as the public is concerned, because either way you can anticipate very slick conditions with the cold temperatures, and moving on into the beginning of next week, even after the snow's gone, I know the forecast is for low temperatures, so this stuff probably will hang around for a while, and again, some of those secondary roads are going to continue to remain challenging even into next week.
Well, you guys are prepping the roads today, but after the snow falls, what does that process look like for you guys?
So as the snow's falling, we're looking for accumulating snow, and once we get to the point where we can actually use our plows on our equipment, the priority is to push the snow off of the roads and then treat with salt to try and keep the ice from building up on the roads, because again, with traffic, the snow can melt, turn into ice, and that becomes a whole nother problem. So the priority is to get the snow off, treat with salt, get that priority clear, and then move on to the next set of priorities.
Can you talk a little bit about sidewalks? Because I know that's a big concern too.
It is. We have staff dedicated to working on some of the priority sidewalks in the downtown area within our municipal service district. Outside of that, obviously most of our staff is dedicated to clearing the roads, so that's going to be our priority.
And what is your biggest message or urgency to drivers, people who just want to go out and play in the snow this weekend for safety?
I would keep trips to a minimum if possible, keep it to emergency type trips, and again, give all the people that have to be out working the ability to do that safely. Have patience. Again, the cold temperatures are going to be very challenging for us to be able to get the roads clear in what some might see as a timely manner, but certainly when you're dealing with the number of roads that we have in Raleigh and the amount of traffic we have in Raleigh, our resources only go so far. We're going to do the best we can with those resources, but it's just a matter of having that patience and understanding that the cold temperatures present a whole other challenge.
Sometimes there's confusion with homeowners, who's taking care of my road, county, city, HOAs.
Yeah.
Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, those that live in the Raleigh city limits, the majority of your thoroughfares are NCDOT roads, and when you start moving down into the secondary roads, especially those with curb and gutter, those are usually city Raleigh roads. But again, when it comes to responding to snow and ice, we work hand in hand with DOT to make sure that we're creating that connectivity regardless of who may be the underlying owner of that street.
Some of the private community, anything?
Yeah, private communities would be the responsibility of whatever homeowners association or commercial responsibility through the property management companies.
And if someone's street hasn't been touched, is there someone they can reach out to? Is there a number? Is there a website to check, see if they're coming their way?
Yeah, certainly. I think that if there is an emergency, we can respond, and they can contact the city through the normal channels. But again, patience is going to be the key. Not every road is going to be clear, and not every road is probably going to be clear within what the public might perceive as a timely manner.
Anything else we missed?
I think y'all got it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
You got to go last. No complaints, no questions.
It's usually how it goes.
Thank you.
check the last one.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Have a good day. Be safe.
Thank you.
And we will break away from that coverage on the storms because we are waiting for North Carolina Governor Josh Stein to come up at 11 o'clock. Bring it back out to closing arguments on the O'Hare murder trial out of Fairfax County, Virginia, now on Live Impact News.
I wasn't sure how to deal with a situation like this. I'd never dealt with a situation like this. But what the situation was Detective Miller's executive summary being sent up the chain to Sergeant Ames, who was in a different division than Lieutenant Giacchio, saying there's different ways. There's 3 different emails that you'll see. Brendan Miller has got to look over this, and he's got to go line by line and explain how he got it wrong, things such as that. The final one is to Sergeant Ames. I can tell you that every single conclusion in his report was wrong. He's going to have to do something in order to, and it's kind of, essentially, he's going to have to change this report because it needs to conform with the proffer of Juliana Perez Magalhaes. So that's twice now. 2 different people that I called to the stand that essentially confirms that everything changes when she comes in and testifies. Let's get back to confirmation bias, rush to judgment. When you have people in a supervisory nature, you have a command staff chain of command, and the highest people are pushing you on your work product, that's why you look like the people that are up here testifying, because they're sitting on the fence, they're sitting on a razor, and neither side is good for them. But they came before us and they testified as to the truth. Detective Miller spoke the truth, and you could see it. Detective Miller, his work was concurred by Mr. Litsky, who you heard for quite often during this period of time. And it was peer reviewed, and it was concurred by someone, a third party. You heard Detective Miller say, that's never been done in Fairfax County. You heard him say, I didn't ask for that peer review. He didn't know who asked for that peer review. Why would you want a peer review of something if it wasn't for it to change? So once again, not happy with that, not happy with the work product. There's nothing to indicate in Detective Miller's background anything but stellar expertise. But he wasn't introduced as an expert for the Commonwealth. Now, this is where this whole theory went wrong. They discredited him. They disregarded him. And they didn't listen to him. And that's a problem. That's a problem for their case. Because there are things in digital forensics that had he been involved with the group that was talking to Juliana Perez Magalhaes, he would have been able to guide them in terms of this is where the digital forensics is in conflict with you. And you heard me testify, or I'm sorry, you heard me ask questions of many of these detectives who might have been involved. Did anybody ever challenge her? Were you present when she recanted for the first time? Well, we couldn't ask that of anyone because the detectives that were in the room have not been called. The detectives that were in the room, I didn't call. And so we don't know anything, but we heard Detective Miller, and he had viewed it, and he said, when I asked him, were there challenges to what was said? He said, no, it was pretty free-flowing. To me, that tells you that whatever the story you're telling us is great, because we're getting bread and Banfield based upon that. Once again, confirmation bias. The first few weeks after the death of Christine Banfield becomes this theory of catfishing, which is what Juliana Perez Magalhães provides to this. Now let's talk a little bit about digital forensics. And I'm not going to try to use the computer to show these to you, because that was excruciating at times. But I think we've gone through it with significant enough detail that when you go back to look at the exhibits, and I'll tell you which exhibits if you wish to write them down, you're going to be able to see exactly what Mr. Litsky was saying. It's complicated. It's been complicated for me since the beginning, but it's not necessarily an easy grasp. But I would ask that you take the opportunity. You're going to have all this evidence to review this particular area. So some of you may have been asking about January, or may wonder about January 9th. That's a significant date in this investigation, because that's the day when the Gmail account, called the suspect Gmail account, was started. Let's just look at how Juliana Perez Magalhães managed this. Regarding the Gmail setup on January 9, 2023, Juliana told the Commonwealth that she was at the house with Brendan when she witnessed him create the Gmail account that was used to kick off the entire catfishing scheme. The Commonwealth took her at her word. The police didn't make any effort to corroborate her story. The one detective who stood up and said the evidence contradicted her story was transferred off.
All right, we'll bring you the wrap up of the closing arguments for the Au Pair Affair trial, murder trial there in Virginia in the coming days. In the meantime, we have Charlotte's Day up next here at 11. We're also waiting for North Carolina Governor Josh Stein to have his live press conference as we prepare for tomorrow's storm. In the meantime, we'll see you then, and we'll be back in a few minutes.